Hi, this is Jacob Simmons, and I'm doing my interview number 3 for my organizational behavior class for Management 5113. And today I have my director, Chris Whiteman. And Chris, we're just going to conduct an interview with up to 11 questions. So I'm just going to
Great.
dive right in. So
All
for
right.
question number 1, how would you describe your leadership style?
From a leadership style perspective, the way I view my team and organization. So right now I've got about 159 people in my organization. And for me, it's a team effort. It's my leadership style is I'm only as good really as my weakest employee. So for me, it's how can I manage my team as an organization together that we can all succeed together, drive together, accountable together.
Okay, good. Can I ask you, what is a leader's best asset?
Listening. I think as a leader, I can't think I know it all. In fact, I can't think I know. So I think you've got to be able to ask questions, listen to answers, listen to feedback, listen to opinions, and take it all in.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an important asset of a leader. So. Can you name a time when an employee disagreed with you and your directive and how you handled it?
Sure, I can give you a real good example. Early on in my career, I had a task of managing an IT group with people in 5 different cities. Each group had built their own tool, and we were asked to pick one of the 5 tools to be the one that the company was going to use going forward. So we chose one out of the 5 as the winner, and we had to work with the other employees to say, listen, unfortunately, the thing you've built, maintained, and owned for the last 5 years, we're now going to work to decommission. A lot of people had angst over that, but one group and one employee in particular was very passionate about what he was very passionate about the selection process and passionate about the fact that they didn't win. So for me, I'm very empathetic to that. Listen, that person invested a lot of time in and felt very, personally attached to it. So, that was a tough decision for them to hear. But, for me, first of all, you've got to be empathetic. You got to put yourself in their shoes. How do they feel? How can we work together on doing this? Because I didn't want to lose that employee as a key contributor going forward. So we sat down, we went through all of the selection criteria and walked through it painstakingly, item by item, piece by piece. And while it was difficult for them, finally at the end they saw why we chose that solution. I think the key to that is they ended up staying on for the next 5 years and actually ended up in the lead on supporting the solution that we chose and we still use today, which is called Omega.
Oh, cool. I've heard of Omega.
Yep.
Can you tell me, how do you praise a team member?
Well, I think this is a challenging question because, for me, praise is immediate and personal and ideally public. For me, I like to praise folks with us not being in the office, right? As you know, we have the opportunity to do it in a group Slack channel that we have. We can do it via email and the like. I think the sooner you can do it relative to the action is always beneficial as well. But I also think too that praise is something that I want other people to see, right? Not necessarily, to embarrass Jacob for how great he is at work, but I think people should see, what that person does to go above and beyond. I think why it's tough is if you think about organizational behavior, you think about recognition is one of those things that's personal to everybody, right?
Hmm.
Some people view recognition as a financial award, and words don't mean as much to them as a cash bonus or something like that. Some
Right.
people are actually embarrassed to be recognized publicly and would prefer not to be recognized versus recognized in front of their peers. So my preference is for everyone to know what they did, recognize them, verbally, where we can. I think cash works great too. But, I think one thing as a leader you have to always be self-conscious about is you can ask 100 people what's important to them as it relates to recognition, and you'll easily get 20 plus different answers.
Right. That's just about exactly what we're learning in this class. So everybody likes praise individually and kind of different. So it's pretty spot
Yep.
on. How do you encourage the development of your employees?
I think you got to be realistic, honest, and really forthright on the opportunities that are out there. I think one of the worst things you could do as a leader too is try to develop employees specific to a job you have in mind, right? So if I'm thinking about Jacob and I'm thinking about, okay, I have a supervisor position I'd love to develop Jacob in. If I focus on developing Jacob for that role, right, I'm doing him a disservice. I think the key is helping employees know what resources are available to them for things they like and encouraging them to follow those, follow something that energizes them. If data analytics and visualization are something that energizes them, even if I don't have a position or an opening, right, I owe it to the employee to show them what resources do we have internally, what resources do we offer externally to help them develop, that skill set, right? If it's about people leadership, how can you help them develop that, that soft skill set?
Hmm.
And listen, as a leader, you've got to be cognizant of the fact that developing your employees may mean that you're training them to leave your organization or leave the company. That's, tough. That's, I think that's great. I think people from a growth perspective, the worst thing you could do as a leader is stymie someone's growth just to continue to benefit from their performance.
Yeah.
And I think you got to be open and honest with employees, right? It is, listen, if you've got an employee, let's make it a little silly, but they're horrible at math and math is just the work, they're taking out a calculator to do 2 plus 5. The worst thing you could do is say, hey, I think developing you in a financial analysis position where math is a heavy requirement, I think that'd be good for you. You should pursue that, right? Whereas that's probably not a good path to put them down.
Right. How do you handle conflict among your employees?
That's tough. Here's the deal is as a leader, you've got to realize if you don't handle conflict and handle it, it's going to burn you worse than the fact of dealing with conflict resolution. So let's give you a good example. If you've got two employees or worse, an employee and a leader that are constantly banging heads, right? Or have an incident where they get into a war of words, right?
Hmm.
You've got to address it. You can't be afraid of the conflict. You can't be afraid of the conversation, and you can't be afraid of what may happen in that follow up, right? So you've got to be able to do it immediately. You've got to be able to pull in. For me, I like to pull in each employee, figure out from their side what happened, and then at best put them both in a room to understand. And then you gotta leave the room with commitment from both on how to work through it going forward, right? And to me, you've got to get them each to say, listen, they don't need to apologize for what they did unless it was completely right, but you've got to agree that going forward, you've got to work together and you've got to be able to get along and get that commitment verbally from each. The worst thing you could do is blow it off and say, well, maybe they were having a bad day. I'm fine. Because the fact is, if it happened once, it may happen again. If it happens again, it may happens another time. It may start impacting 3 employees around them, right? And then the next time it's 5 employees, and now you've got a bigger issue. Don't be afraid of conflict, but um, you know, get the conversations going, work through it. Don't cave in and say, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. Address it and move forward.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Can can you tell me, do you have anyone you look to for mentorship?
Really, my dad. My dad's had a slew of careers, mostly in small manufacturing companies from a finance perspective. He's managed in in heavy unionized workforces in Western Pennsylvania, and a lot of little, a lot of family-owned manufacturing companies. And I think the key to that is those companies and their diversity and their makeup provide for a whole set of challenges I can remember when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um, Everything from violent strikes all the way through to companies being sold on a daily basis changed, right? His personality, his persona were consistently they were constant. And I remember going to work with my dad at times, being around people that worked for my dad and heavy praise for them on the way my dad acted and the way my dad interacted with them. So I think I look to him a lot for the leader I've become.
Oh, cool. Something I didn't know about you.
There you go.
Can you tell me how do you evaluate performance?
I, Performance evaluation to me is it's not about how well you do and what you're supposed to do, but what you do beyond that and how you look to make things better. I think we can teach within our company people how to do the job they're doing, right?
Hmm.
It's not as strict from a rules perspective like accounting would be, as you know. A lot of it is learning on the fly, a lot of it training, a lot of it is, a flexibility in your thought process. Um, I think people who do really, really well at their job are ones I would say are performing. But those that exceed and really are those the ones that are looking to make the job better. They're the ones trying to, and it sounds horrible, but they're the themselves out of the job they have, and really are the ones that branch out and look at things differently.
Okay. And we'll have time for one more question.
All
And
right.
can you tell me what is the difference between a leader and a manager?
I view a manager almost literally as one man process. Manager always to me, the term feels more micro than macro. It feels more like, what are you doing today, Jacob? What's on your plate today, Jacob? Got to get done today, Jacob. Right? A leader for me is one that, by example, takes a team to the next level, both individually and as a group.
Okay. Pretty good. And that's about all the time we have. So thank you for letting me interview you today.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for asking.